this is the moment for Russia to pull back their military buildup at the border, that diplomacy is the right path forward here, but that we are going to continue to coordinate closely with our partners, our transatlantic partners, on a range of economic sanctions and steps that couldn't be taken should President Putin decide to move forward.
The White House warning the Kremlin to stay out of Ukraine or face serious consequences. Right now, President Biden is holding a secure video call with President Putin as the U.S. and Europe prepare harsh economic sanctions if Russian troops invade Ukraine. Dan Hoffman is a former CIA station chief and Fox News contributor. Got to ask you, Dan, is the threat of sanctions enough to deter President Putin?
Absolutely not, in my estimation. If past is prologue, we know that whatever sanctions we threaten Putin's regime with, and whatever sanctions we use, they're not going to change Vladimir Putin's calculus. Ukraine is an existential threat to Putin's regime's security. He would like us to believe that it's a military threat, but what really threatens Putin, it's not missiles or tanks, it's liberty and freedom. And Ukraine is a democracy that seeks membership in European Union and NATO, and that's a red line for Vladimir Putin. He stated that as such. That's why he's got 100,000 plus troops on the border threatening Ukraine's independence.
Dan, the thing you wrote up here is it's extraordinary. And now I know why you were as good as you were in your job as a CIA analyst and station chief around the world. I'll just read one thing here. You say the threat of a Russian invasion is real. By January, Ukraine's terrain will be frozen and more easily accessible to invading forces. That's how you move trucks, and that's how you move tanks in a January winter.
Exactly, and that's what Vladimir Putin has done. He's moved his pieces on the chessboard. He knows he's going to induce a response from the United States and our allies. We can either provide Ukraine with the military assistance they need, that might be lethal maritime equipment or Patriot missiles, in order for them to defend themselves. If we do that, Putin might use that as a pretext to launch a military attack. If we don't do it, then Ukraine is vulnerable to Russian incursion. And the question for the Biden administration is, where do we stand? You know, NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg has said that Russia should not have a veto over Ukraine's foreign policy, including Ukraine's NATO membership. But we haven't really done enough as of yet to take Ukraine out of Russia's historical sphere of influence and control. And that is where I think we'll be looking to see what sort of reaction we get from today's call between President Biden and Putin.
Let's zoom out a little bit. The Wall Street Journal editorial board writing today, rogues are on the march around the world. Iran and Russia give every sign they don't take President Biden seriously. Continuing, the world is entering a dangerous period. The hard men in Moscow, Tehran, and Beijing are going to test Mr. Biden to expand their power and spheres of influence, and it isn't at all clear if or how Mr. Biden will respond. Let's get your measure of that from a bigger picture of the dangers in the world that we face now and the president 10 months into his term.
Yeah, I think dictatorships are on the march around the world at a level unprecedented since the Second World War. And you can add to the list that you made North Korea, which has a nuclear program and a ballistic missile capability of inflicting great harm on the region and beyond, all the way to our homeland. The Biden administration's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan demonstrated not only that we're not as interested as we used to be in taking the fight to the enemy and defending ourselves overseas as we need to, but also that we were really unable to deliver the kind of effective foreign policy that we should have. We left U.S. citizens and our allies behind, and Afghanistan is now a terrorist state. And so I think that Iran and Russia and China all see opportunities to take advantage of that. And let's remember that those three countries are collaborating with one another. You know, Russia's been a longtime ally of Iran, and China and Iran are building a strategic relationship. We know that Russia and China are very close militarily. They conducted exercises together over the summer. So this is a dizzying array of threats to our national security. And if the Biden administration's not up to the task, then we will suffer the consequences.
Dan, that's a heck of a quote you just gave there. Dictatorships around the world are on the march. That's something else. For 4 years, that wasn't the case, with the exception of North Korea, and that pretty much was talked out into a stalemate, you could argue. What have they seen in 10 months that would enable them to move the way you're describing?
Well, Iran is a nuclear threshold state, or at least they're on the precipice of becoming one. And China and Russia have grown stronger and closer together. And I think they're all seeing an opportunity to do trade with one another. You know, Iran is evading the sanctions by exporting oil to China. And China knows that it can be a market for Russia's natural gas and oil. So if we think sanctions are going to impact Russia, no, the Russians will, at least for now, turn to China. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I think we've been seeing it build up, frankly, for the past few years. But now we're seeing the danger that this poses to us and to our allies.
What is the specific weakness that you're referring to here on behalf of this administration?
Well, I think this administration has relied on moral suasion and diplomatic tough talk, but at the end of the day, you've got to deliver concrete policy measures. I look back at the days of the Reagan administration, where the Reagan administration had real policy measures designed to confront the Soviet Union and deter Soviet expansion. All along the way, they conducted very high-value bilateral negotiations, which yielded arms control agreements that to this day are of value to us. But if you don't have concrete policy measures, and that means shoring up our allies with military support, if we don't ensure that Taiwan is such a hard target that China would never dream of attacking, and the same for Ukraine, then we fail. And we know that sanctions aren't going to work. I think it makes some in this administration, as it did in the Obama administration, make it feel like they're doing something, but it's not enough.
Dan Hoffman, thank you so much for your
Good to have you.
thoughts this morning.
Thank
This
you,
call
Dan.
with Putin is underway right now.